to Robotadventures helps explain Avengers Endgame to Iron Man. Oh, hello, Iron Man. Hello. Hello, Robot. Robot, can you help explain the Avengers Endgame to me? Because there was a bunch of time travel stuff, and I'm not really sure I followed all that. Sure thing, Iron Man. I'll help you. Help you out. Alright, so this video is not safe for work. If you're working and then you see this video and then your boss comes around or somebody and they're like, what are you watching? And then they're like, oh, what he just said that thing, oh no. Right? Spoilers. Spoilers. Come back. So I thought I'd use some graphs and some pictures. So if you follow me up on Twitters and all the social medias, because I'm all hip and stuff like that. Robot, I know that you don't post on Facebook and all that other stuff, all that other social media. You are lazy. You're a rabbit. Okay, I'm a little bit lazy. But I did Twitter. I do Twitter. That's the easiest one. So I got to thinking about Endgame and you know, time traveling and stuff like that. Come by. And how did it work out? You know, and there's been some confusion. I like watching some of the spoiler reaction videos, but and I wanted to make a video talking about the problems that I had with the movie and what was left unresolved and what it meant after watching the Endgame. Yeah, so maybe this will be it. I should probably write a script or something, but yeah, there are a couple of issues I had. And some of the things that I wanted to see, but I didn't get to see because, you know, it was already 3 hours. It was like, oh, they didn't put that in the movie, so. Yeah. Jolie, what are you doing here? Yeah, Jolie. Oh, shit, she fell out. Oh, shit, don't make it run down. Oh, crap. Oh, her hand fell off. Oh, no. Alright, I got her up. Alright, so I wrote down some things that I thought about Endgame, and I wanted to see, but I didn't see, and I was like, oh, they didn't fix that, or what? How did they fix that? So, and there are probably a lot more. It's like, oh, after watching it again, oh, they should have done that. So the first thing, I wanted to talk about was, I thought, you know, Siri was like that close to getting the Mind Stone out of Vision, Infinity Stone out of Vision, and I was like, oh, okay, good. And I thought she, you know, if she were able to do that, if she studied all the schematics and figured out how he was built together, she should have been able to, like, just remake another Vision. And, because basically they were just going to take the stone out of his head and he would still be the same thing. So I thought, it was like, okay, well, why don't they just build another one? But, yeah, they didn't. And I was like, okay, well, I thought they were really close. Why didn't they do that? And yeah, so that was one thing from Infinity War that I was like, okay. Then I was thinking, so someone impounded Scott Lang's van. And I thought maybe, they would have, like, S.H.I.E.L.D. would have some knowledge of, what's the tech behind, or somebody would say, oh, look at that high-tech van. But no, they just impounded it. Nobody checked what was in the van. It's like, all right, well, and I can understand that, after 5 years of the snap, so many vehicles were just like, but who stored it there? Was it registered to the family, and then the family, like his daughter, like put it in storage or something? I don't know how that worked. So yeah, I was like, why was the van there? And another thing I wanted to see from Infinity Wars, I wanted to see Hulk fight the Hulk get another chance to fight Thanos, but we didn't see that. So, come by. I wanted to see a revenge match, but and another the big thing was Scott Lang. I wanted to see Luis. And I wanted a story, and I thought it would have been great, and I heard that there was like a synopsis done in the recap Luis way that was covering all the films and stuff. That would have been great to see. I would have loved to see that. But yeah, I wanted to see Drax have some, he did have a little bit of fight, but I wanted to see him go up against Thanos because he wanted to kill him. I thought maybe from Ant-Man, Ghost could have come in if she was, and the Hank Pym's old partner, Morbius could have come in. And I wanted to see something. Well, I was like, well, why did I wanted if they could do something with Coulson. He died, but maybe they could wished him back. But and I wanted to see something with that drop of blood from Thanos. He said all this for a drop of blood. It's like, okay, they got a drop of blood. What does that mean? And it didn't mean anything. So I wanted to see that. That means something. And those are some of the things that I wanted from Infinity Wars to carry over, but it didn't happen. And what did happen was a whole bunch of different stuff. And that's what I want to talk about and try to explain with the graphics. Okay. Alright, so let's look at some graphics now. Awesome graphics. So, Strange in Infinity War was sitting cross-legged while Stark and the Pluckies were talking about the plan. And Mantis is like, oh, look at your friend. And so they go over, Stark goes over and says, hey, Strange, are you alright? And Strange says, and this is important, I went into the future to see all of the possible outcomes to the upcoming battle. So that was his intention. He wanted to see all of the possible outcomes. That does not mean he saw all of the possible outcomes. I go and buy a lottery ticket to win the lottery. But that does not mean I won the lottery. So, he tells them, Peter Quill asks, how many did you see? And 14,605,000. And Stark says, how many did we win? We won one. Okay. Out of infinite possibilities, you only saw 14,605,000. That is nothing. And you only saw one. So you have to ask yourself, how many alternative futures did he not see? And of those, how many of those did we win? So if it's only 14 million and it's 1 out of 14 million, okay. What if it was like 100 billion gazillion trillion? How many of those did they win? Yeah, maybe a lot more. So what this sets up is we as the moviegoer are trying to get to the victory situation. There is a path to victory that the moviegoer wants to see. All of those paths that led to defeat, we don't care about those. All those different realities, we don't care about those. We only want to, we want to see how we get to a victory situation, and that's, the journey. The journey is, maybe more important than the destination. So that's what we're going for. That's what we're setting up in Endgame. So, when Doctor Strange is on Titan and he's cross-legged and he's looking into the future, he has to be going through how to win. So first he thinks about, maybe fighting. And he goes through a bunch of alternate realities, alternate futures of fighting Thanos. Only, 14 million. And in all of those that he saw, he lost. And then it was like, maybe if we run away, can we run away, and will that help us win? And it's like, no, that doesn't work. And so it's like, okay, so now what if I give him the stone? Will we win that way? And he looks through a bunch of possible realities and he says, if we do it that way, there's a chance we could win. And he wants to play the odds of the realities that he saw to get the best possible chance of winning. So he looked at just Thanos appears. Here you go, Thanos. Here's the stone. Oh no, that way sucked. We still lost that way. Or so we're gonna fight him a little bit, and then I'll give him the stone. And no, that way didn't work either. It's like, okay, I'm gonna fight him. We're gonna fight him a little bit, and then Tony's gonna fight him a little bit more, and then to save Tony, I'll give him the stone. But no, the best chance of us getting to the victory situation would be fighting, and then Tony getting stabbed with the armor knife that he made. And then at that point I'll say stop, and then I'll give Thanos the stone, and then we'll have the best chance of the victory situation. And this is only a chance. So I think Doctor Strange put the Time Stone into the future to keep it away from Thanos, because he realized that if he fights with the Time Stone, if he does stuff with the Time Stone, he loses. So it's like, okay, I'll just keep it out of reach. The best chance for victory is to put the Time Stone in the future, and then we'll have this big fight, and then we will catch up to the Time Stone in time, and I'll be lying over here on the floor, and then I'll say, "Stop, Thanos," and then the Time Stone will appear in my hand because we caught up to its time, and then I will give the Time Stone to Thanos. He'll disappear. We'll be here, and then they'll fight on Earth, and then we'll disappear. So Strange has gone into the future beyond the point where he dies from the snap, and looked at those possible futures, and he saw a future where he, after the snap, after they came back to life, after Hulk snapped and everyone, they got to the point where they're at the battle, and then Tony Stark asks him, "Oh, is this what happens?" And then Strange says, "If I tell you, it won't happen." So there's a possibility that there's so many more possibilities that even after giving the Time Stone to Thanos, that they lose. So they bring everyone back to life. They do the big fight, and then unfortunately, Strange tells Tony what he has to do, and they still lose. So the one path that he saw that allowed them to have a victory situation was for him to not tell Tony, and then that's the path that he saw. So there are so many other different paths that he did not see that may have led to victory situations, but we are not following those paths. We are following the path to victory. One last thing about the 14,605 visions on Titan. He viewed the future from that point in time. So everything, all of the possible realities, all of Spider-Man getting on the ship, Tony Stark, them killing the other bad wizard, all of those things had to happen to get to that one point on Titan where Doctor Strange looked into the future. There were alternate realities where Doctor Strange died. There were, before he even got to that point, there were alternate realities where Spider-Man wasn't there, where Spider-Man stayed on. There were infinite amounts of different alternate realities where things didn't happen to allow Doctor Strange to be on Titan, and in that point in time with those people to view the alternate realities from that point in time. There were different realities where members weren't there, where they never went to Titan. They didn't get captured. So Doctor Strange is only looking at it from that point in reality forward. Okay, he's not looking back at all the other different alternate realities that led different places. He's just looking from that point in time. Everything had to, like Schrodinger's cat, everything, all of those things had to culminate, had to happen to get to that one point in time where Doctor Strange could look from that point into the future and see where did they go from there. Okay, now let's get into Endgame. Alright, so I was editing this and I realized that I forgot to add the part where Thanos kills Vision and uses the Time Stone. It is important to remember that using the Time Stone is different from traveling through the quantum realm. Using the Time Stone, you can jump between alternate realities and see different realities, like Doctor Strange did on Titan. And what Tony will talk about later in Endgame is instead of moving a person through time, you can move time through a person. This is one of the powers that you can control using the Time Stone, because that is what Thanos did on Earth in Infinity War to bring back Vision and then kill him and get the Infinity Stone. Thanos did not do the travel back into his past timeline, because there would have been two Thanoses and the Avengers would still be fresh. He wouldn't have knocked them out. So it would have been maybe more powerful. But he didn't do that. He pushed time through Vision. Okay, let's talk about the rat. So Doctor Strange knew that there were post-snap alternate reality futures where they lost, even after Hulk snapped them back into reality. And Doctor Strange knew that there were post-snap realities where the rat didn't push the button, and where Ant-Man didn't come back, and they didn't do all the time travel stuff. So there were infinite amounts of possibilities where none of that happened. They didn't go back and they didn't figure out the quantum stuff. Everyone just lived on with Thanos, and so there were those realities. Doctor Strange might have seen those. He might have seen maybe one or two or 1,000, or who knows how many he actually saw. But he knew that was a situation. So he was just playing the odds. It's like, I hope we're going to see the one where we win. So and it's kind of like the camera, the movie goer has to follow that path. I mean, because if we follow the path where there was no rat, it's like, yay, and the movie ends. Okay, so that's not a good movie. We want to get the exciting path to victory. So that's the way it has to be, because who wants to see a shitty movie? So the stars all aligned, and we got a victory situation. Not maybe the best situation, but a situation I think a lot of people could live with, except for those who didn't. So, and now let's talk about how that path came to be, and what some of the, I guess, hurdles or the weird thinking that we had to do to get to that victory situation. Okay, so in Avengers Endgame, we have to think about time travel differently from the way we're accustomed to. Let's first talk about the standard Back to the Future, Hot Tub Time Machine, Star Trek time travel method. Then we'll talk about how the MCU has to change it. So when they're preparing to test the time travel, Scott Lang and War Machine say, let's just go back into the past and kill baby Thanos, or take the Infinity Stones, and we won't have a problem, and everyone will be happy. Yay! So the Hulk explains that time travel doesn't work that way. And he explains, and I'm paraphrasing, that if you, in your future, time travel back to the past, that time travel is in your future. Your present will become the past, and that future time travel cannot change the past, the things you have done. That's all in the future. So what that means is that when you time travel to the past, you are creating an alternate reality. In that reality you made the choice to try time travel back into the past. That was a split. And there was another choice where you chose not to time travel into the past, and that split. So you're always making these choices, making these realities, but these choices are in your future, and they cannot affect the choices you made in your past. So let's look at the War Machine idea of going back into the past and killing baby Thanos, and Scott Lang's idea, let's take the Infinity Stones, which that's kind of good because they can undo the snap with the Infinity Stones. And they're going to use the alternate reality Infinity Stones to undo Thanos' snap. That's a okay idea. But let's look at killing baby Thanos. Okay, so in War Machine's history, in his personal reality, his timeline, Thanos killed half of the life in the universe, and Doctor Strange is dead. So War Machine goes back into time, and that creates an alternate reality, and he kills baby Thanos, and from that point, there was a choice to go back in time, and there was the choice to kill baby Thanos or not kill baby Thanos. Not killing baby Thanos led to an alternate reality where the snap happened again. Killing baby Thanos led to an alternate reality future where the snap didn't happen, and all the people were alive. Yay, everyone's happy. But these are alternate reality people living in an alternate reality with, different possibilities. So when he goes back and kills baby Thanos, he's living with the baby Avengers. So there's a baby War Machine, there's a baby Doctor Strange, and there's an adult War Machine. So if he stays in that timeline, he'll move forward in that timeline, that alternate timeline, to watch the baby Avengers grow up. Will they become the Avengers? Who knows? Because it's an alternate reality. They have all the choices. They can make all the choices. There is a path in that alternate reality where they do become the Avengers, and everything does become the way that he remembers. But he's still going to be super old, in comparison to the babies. So why doesn't he just travel back to 2019? Go to the future. Because that 2019 is in his past. He was in 2019, then he time traveled back into the past, and 2019 is even further in his past. So he is in the situation where Doctor Strange was in, where he has to travel to the future. The future 2019 of that timeline. of the non-Thanos existent timeline. So, where does he go? How does he get back to all of his old friends back in 2019? Not the baby Avengers who have become who knows who they became because of choices and stuff. So that past, that 2019 that he wants with all his old friends, that's way in his past. So we can't we can't do that Back to the Future type of time travel. Back to the Future made you think that Marty McFly went back into his own reality and changing the events in the past uh, changed the reality around him. It's like, oh, look, I changed the past, and now the reality changed around me, but I'm still in my same timeline. That is not what happened. Um, it could be like, oh, yeah, that's what happened. But maybe what really happened was Marty McFly went in the past, changed reality, created an alternate reality, moved forward in that alternate reality, and just decided, okay, I'll live in this alternate reality. His real reality with his poor family and Biff is a that exists in another alternate reality. That exists somewhere else. Marty McFly never goes back there. He just lives off the rest of his life with Doc in this alternate reality. It's like, hey. So, if you wanted to do this type of time travel, uh, you could, but you'd have to take the half of the universe that lived, send them back in time to the same timeline, alternate timeline where you kill Thanos, and the half of the universe would live with baby versions of themselves and the other half of the people that Thanos killed, so they'd be like an extra 50% population. And yeah, so I think that's even a worse situation. So we can't do it that way. Okay, so the basic plan was for the Avengers to go back in time and get the Infinity Stones and bring them back into their reality and undo the snap. That was a good plan. They're going to go back in time, create an alternate reality, but it doesn't matter because they just need to get the stones, and then undo the snap. So we have a good plan. So the basic problem with time travel was that it is very hard to navigate the quantum realm, and because you can pop up uh, at some other point in time. The Infinity Stone, Time Stone, seems to allow the user great control over their movement through time. So Doctor Strange is able to travel through different alternate realities, going back to where he started, going forward, going back, going forward, going back, and being able to jump and see the different paths of those different alternate realities. So without that type of control, it is very dangerous to try to time travel because you don't know where you'll pop up. And that's a little bit of what happened to Scott Lang when Hulk tried to move him through time. So when Tony Stark fixed it with his temporal space GPS, they were able to set points in time and monitor where the people time traveling were, and being able to uh, direct them back to where they started from, where they wanted to be. So the teams suit up Captain says there are 3 teams, but it's kind of actually 4 teams. We got the New York team, uh, Captain America, Iron Man, Ant-Man, and the Hulk. They're going after the Tesseract, the Mind Stone, and the Time Stone. Team 2 is the Asgard team, which is Rocket and Thor. And Team 3, or 3 or 4, is War Machine and Nebula going to get the Power Stone, and Hawkeye and Black Widow to get the Soul Stone. So they all have one chance at getting their Infinity Stone, because they only have so many payment particles. That's one of the plot devices. And they can take as much time as they need because of time travel. So they can take different amounts of time. So maybe one group needs 2 hours or a day or whatever, and the other group needs like 30 minutes. It doesn't matter, because their temporal space GPS will send them back to the point in time where they all reappear together. So that's important to remember. So Hulk talks to Tilda Swinton, the Sorceress Supreme, and she tells him about the alternate realities. He says he'll put the stones back to maintain the timeline, which is nice, but when you think about it, it will be an alternate reality no matter what. So they all of the teams have their adventures, and they need to get back to 2019. And remember, they're not traveling forward in their alternate past timelines. They are actually traveling farther into their past to get back to the point where they left. Before they time travel to the past, they need to go before that point. So War Machine takes off with the Power Stone before Nebula does, because she gets captured by alternate reality past Nebula and ARP Nebula. And ARP Nebula swaps identities with future Nebula, main Nebula, and she uses the GPS, temporal spatial GPS, to travel forward to 2019. Now, normally it would be a little dangerous to travel forward in the timeline because of all the alternate realities, and you would need like the time stone to be able to control where you go. But Nebula has the temporal spatial GPS from the main future Nebula, so she will go to the same point in time where future Nebula was supposed to go. Remember, this is ARP Nebula, Alternative Reality Past Nebula. The real Nebula never went into the future, never saw Tony Stark, and never met herself. This is Alternative Reality Past, so it's okay for her to go into the future. So now we have the ARP Infinity Stones, And Tony puts those into the Stark Gauntlet. And Thor really wants to snap because he feels guilt. But Hulk is really the strongest Avenger. And he says most of the radiation is gamma, so he was made for this. Unfortunately, we have more plot. And ARP Nebula pulls or brings ARP Thanos, ARP Gamora, and the ARP Thanos army with main future Nebula. She brings them from 2014 into onto Earth into 2019 or 2024, whenever it was. So it's okay that all of those ARP characters, all the bad guys, ARP Thanos, ARP Gamora, she's bad still, or kind of so good. ARP Thanos army with ARP Proxima and Midnight and Ebony Maw, all those guys. So if we kill them, it's okay because they are alternative reality past characters. And they don't have any. They can't change the past of the Avengers because they're in the future. So we have the battle, and the idea was to get rid of, or to take the Infinity Stones back into the past, and that's more for getting them out of this reality. The Avengers kind of do the same thing that Thanos did by getting rid of the Infinity Stones so that there's no temptation, by sending them back. They want to send them back into time. But of course that time travel into the past will make another alternative reality, and you're not actually going back to put them into the same timeline where you took them from. So that Tilda Swinton Sorcerer Supreme will be a little bit different. And it's like, hey, look, I know we took your time stone in that alternate reality past, but here's a time stone again, which is a little bit different, but kind of close enough. And they get rid of all the time stones. That's what they want to do, but they have the fight and stuff like that. So they don't get to send them back at that point in time, but they do end up beating Thanos. So in the final battle, you did see the two alternatives. So you saw the one where Tony Stark goes up and says, "Hey, is this the final battle?" And he says, "I can't tell you." And then you saw the one where he didn't tell him, but he just said one. He held up one finger. It's like, there's one chance. And so then Tony does, gets the Infinity Stones and does a snap himself. So, spoilers. Okay, so was that the best victory situation where Tony sacrifices himself? Maybe not. Maybe there was a situation where Tony lived. And they still got the snap off, and Hulk double snapped. He switched it to his other arm and snapped again. Who knows? But Doctor Strange didn't see that alternate reality. There were many alternate realities where the Hulk didn't snap. So maybe they had changed up the teams. Maybe instead of Black Widow and Hawkeye, they sent in Thor and Rocket into to get the Soul Stone. And it's like, well, I don't love you. I got to kill someone. There was no one to kill. So in that situation, in that reality, there was no Hulk snap. So finally, the Thanos is defeated. We still have the Infinity Stones. And we want to avoid temptation. We want to put them into the past timeline. But as a moviegoer, we want one more like, oh wow, that was some stuff. So we get the bench scene by the side of the lake. Captain America doesn't say what happened in the past, but let's think about some of the possibilities. If Captain America had talked with Doctor Strange and made a plan to go back in time and give the Infinity Stones and Mjolnir to the Ancient One and told her what to do, and I'm from the future, and she sent it, sent it back to Asgard and all the Infinity Stones to where they're supposed to be, and then went back to his timeline with Hulk and Falcon and Bucky. That would have been one way. And in one reality, that's what happened. But we, the moviegoer, didn't see that reality. In another alternate reality, Captain goes back and gets killed. Or Captain goes back and Thanos gets killed and never does a snap. Or something happens, the Hulk never snaps. Or Tony never snaps. Things happen that don't have Captain America in that alternate reality's future on a platform, and that our main Captain America never needs to go to that bench on the side of the lake. We don't get to see those movies. What we want to see is our hero going back into the past, living his life with Peggy Carter, and then after years knowing, maybe Thanos snapped and he survived, and then Hulk and all that stuff happened, and then he knows, because he is our hero, that in this time my younger self will go back in time, and then I'll just go to the bench and I'll meet the young version of Falcon and all those guys. So how is this possible if you're creating an alternative reality when you go back in time? Well, we can think about how alternate realities can merge into one reality. The way Peter Parker's timeline merged with Iron Man, and that merged with Doctor Strange's, and that merged with the Guardians. They had alternate realities that their lives went in different ways, but they all kind of merged together and went and formed the main timeline. So you could hope that Captain got all the Infinity Stones to where they were supposed to be, and he didn't cause any ripples that altered the timeline in any way. Maybe he and Peggy Carter ran off or something happened. So many variables, but the timelines merged, and that alternate reality that Captain America went back into, that past timeline, merged with the main timeline, and our hero, Captain America, is actually going through time and will meet his younger friends. So that's one way of hoping that it happened. And the other simple way would be that he still has his temporal space GPS. So even if his timeline was way different and he didn't have the snap or anything like that, he could still go back to the time that he left and say, okay, I'm here. So that'd be the easiest way. He just used his temporal thing and went back to the point like a little bit before in that timeline. So that would be easy enough. It would be a lot easier to do it using the temporal spatial GPS than kind of merging all of the timelines. And if he did it with his GPS, then he could have just run away with Peggy Carter and just avoided all of the superhero stuff and lived his life with Peggy Carter off in Alaska, and all the world dies or everything, something something, and um, before before Thanos does a snap, he somehow steals some pen particles and goes back even further in time and lives longer with Peggy. Because how did he get old? He's the super soldier. He doesn't age. His body is maybe he does age if he like turned it off, or there's so many things that he could have done. And then after he lived his long life, he said, "Okay, time to teleport back." And then he teleports back, and hey, buddies, I'm old man now. That'd be the easiest way, but he could try to merge the timelines. But I think just using the GPS would be faster or easier. Okay, so Captain America went back, returned the Infinity Stones and the hammer, and he's living with Peggy Carter, and he tries to merge the timelines. He also has to figure out a way to start aging because of the super serum, and uh, even if he figures out how to merge the timelines, and it looks like, oh, the timelines are, they're the same. I'm older, but I'm living together with younger version of me, and they get to that uh, the snap, and then they get on. He gets the young Captain America gets on the platform and goes back in time. In that timeline, that young Captain America could come back on the platform, and then they'd still be young Captain America and old Captain America, and they'd have to move forward in time together. There could be that version, or maybe the version where he doesn't come back, and then we can say, oh, maybe it was fully merged, maybe. Um, so yeah, so everyone's moving forward from that point in time with the old Captain America, young Captain America's in the past. So we're there now. If we want to go get a younger Black Widow before she died, we can do that using the time travel and just go back in time, pick up the ARP Black Widow, and bring her into our timeline, and then she won't have some of the memories that we know our dead main Black Widow had. But depending on where we got her, she'd be kind of close to Black Widow. So finally, I think if you've gotten to this point, I think you realize that all these alternative realities exist somewhere. And what we are doing as the moviegoer is just following a set of events that get us to the exciting uh, Iron Man snap. We avoided going down timelines where all the Avengers die or the snap never happens or stuff like that. We also didn't see other victory situations where maybe Hulk does a second snap with his other arm, or uh, Captain Marvel does a snap, and Tony lives. Yay, Tony lives! But we didn't see that. I like the idea of the temporal space GPS because that sets a point in time where all different timelines have converged to make that point in time. And moving forward from that point in time, you can go into other points in time, but using that temporal space GPS, let's say you chose to go left instead of right, well, you have a temporal space GPS coordinate for that choice to go left, and you also have a different GPS coordinate for when you decided to go right. So that way you can grab people from any point in time and just, okay, we're going over here where this reality happened. So that's kind of a nice way to do it. Okay, so yeah, I think that kind of clears up all of the temporal stuff. Um, Captain and Iron Man went back in time again after going back in time, setting up another alternate reality. But it was cool because they had the temporal space GPS, and they can, even if they were in a different weird alternate reality, they got the Pym particles and went back uh, to where they were supposed to be, and that's how alternate reality past Nebula and all those guys got to where they were. So it's a good idea. So finally, I wanted to talk about some other movies that this got me thinking of. So I was born in Austin, Texas, and raised in Texas, and um, there was a director, Richard Linklater, and he did a very popular movie. Quentin Tarantino liked it, called Dazed and Confused. Had hey McConaughey, and it had a lot of Ben Affleck, a lot of young actors who would become famous. And one of the movie he did before that in 1991 was Slackers. And I remember this movie. I was in high school, and I was like, "Oh, that's pretty cool. That's a weird movie." And traveling around Austin and stuff, and I was like, "Oh yeah, no, I've been there. Yeah, I know that." And you can see like a bootleg copy on YouTube, and if you just try to find. I don't know if you could find this on Netflix. It's 1991 Slackers. It's the story is about following timelines and events and moving from one event to the next event, but not necessarily following the characters. It's like this event happened, and then it moved from here to here, and then it moved from here to here. And when I saw Avengers and I tried to think about how to explain how the moviegoer is experiencing all this time travel, I thought of Slackers, and I thought, yep, that's what it was. It was just like moving here and here, and then this could have happened, but we didn't go there. And there's a opening scene where the guy's in the taxi and talks about this. But if you have time to see a movie from almost what was that, 1991, 20, 30 years ago? Yeah, it was a good movie. All right, guys. I hope you found this informative. Maybe there was something I missed, but I think I got everything. Let me know what you think. Talk to you guys later. Come by. Bye bye.